We'll just start with your thoughts on where we are with the state of the presidential race.
I think right now, pretty much everything is baked into the cake except the debates. This debate is actually one of the few debates that's really, really important. Obviously, every national poll is now within margin of error. Most of the swing state polls are also within margin of error. So while people think that's advantage Trump, and it is, given that he's running much stronger than he was in 2020, the fact is that right now, pretty much all the views about both candidates are baked into the cake. So the question for the election is going to be, is the focus on Biden or is the focus on Trump? I've said for years that when it comes to presidential elections, whoever the election becomes a referendum on typically loses. So that means that in 2012, it became a referendum, oddly enough, on Mitt Romney. He lost. In 2016, it was actually not a referendum on Trump. It was a referendum on Hillary Clinton. She lost. In 2020, it was obviously a referendum on Trump rather than Biden. He lost. In 2024, it should be a referendum on Biden. And so far, all the focus has been on what a bad President Biden is with inflation and with the foreign policy on fire. But the debate could shift all of that. Obviously, Joe Biden's intent is to ask Trump over and over and over again about 2020, election 2020, January 6th. I presume that Jake Tapper and Dana Bash will do much the same thing. It's going to be Trump's job to avoid the landmine that he likes to embrace, which is talking about himself, and instead say, listen, whatever you think happened January 6th, 2021, whatever you think happened in election 2020, the person who's been president since January 20th of 2021 has been Joe Biden, and he's been terrible, which is why no matter what you think of me, I'm now beating him in the polls. I was a better president than he is. He's a terrible president right now, like this very moment. And what matters is going to be election day 2024, not January 6th, 2021. He's going to have to really put the focus back on Biden at every possible turn. And I think he's going to have to avoid some of the kind of easy jokes that he likes to play, mainly because I think that they backfire in a room where there's no audience. So a lot of these rules in this debate are set up very much in favor of Joe Biden. This whole thing feels incredibly rigged in terms of Joe Biden offers the debate. He offers the date and the networks. The anchors come out the same day. The rules come out the same day. That feels pre-planned to me. Donald Trump immediately picked up on that and took him up on that. I think probably Trump should have said, happy to do that. And then he should have negotiated a little bit more over the rules. But obviously the mic's being muted is a bit of a problem for Trump because he's not going to be able to kind of jump in with the pithy one-liner. It prevents him from running roughshod totally over Joe Biden, which is probably good for Trump. But by the same token, if Joe Biden flags, it would be very helpful to be able to jump in and say, Joe, what are you talking about? That'd be a useful thing. He can't do that. The lack of an audience doesn't serve Trump well because he really responds to crowds in the room. And he also is very funny, and humor doesn't fall the same way when there's no crowd in the room. So a lot of the factors are stacked against Trump. He's really going to have to kind of go within himself and perform in a way that he really has not had to perform in a debate before, I think.